Usually when we hear the word cyber attack, the image that pops into our heads is entirely digital.
Right. It's invisible.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Like a server blinking in a dark, air-conditioned room somewhere, a stolen password. Or, maybe a database of credit card numbers just vanishing into the ether.
Yeah, we tend to think of it as a problem confined to the screens on our desks or, the phones in our pocket.
Right. A headache for the IT department.
Exactly. Maybe a scary letter in the mail about credit monitoring, but not something you can actually physically touch.
Right. But I want you to imagine a completely different scene for a second. Picture yourself standing in a massive, sweltering industrial facility in North Queensland, Australia.
Oh, man, the heat alone.
Yeah, the heat and the air is just thick with this sweet, heavy smell of molasses. You've got giant steel conveyor belts roaring overhead. Massive crushers are grinding up like thousands of tons of raw sugar cane.
The noise must be incredible.
It's deafening. There's a whole fleet of narrow-gauge trains pulling in and out of the yard. It's just constant, heavy motion. And then someone sitting at a laptop halfway across the world clicks a single button.
And it all just stops.
Instantly. All of that heavy physical machinery grinds to a dead, silent halt. The trains stop, the crushers freeze, even the tractors out in the fields miles away literally have to turn off their engines because
the entire logistical chain just vanished.
Exactly.
I mean, it is the ultimate nightmare scenario for industrial operations. It's that exact moment the digital world violently collides with the physical world.
Right. It completely shatters the illusion that cyber threats only exist in cyberspace. And that is exactly our mission for you today on this custom deep dive. We are taking a single, incredibly revealing source of threat intelligence.
From Kinsoft, right?
Yes. A tech update from Tech Talks with Kinsoft, dated June 17, 2026. And we are going to unpack how a digital threat completely paralyzed a massive physical operation. We are looking at the attack on Mackay Sugar, which is Australia's second largest raw sugar producer.
It's a huge operation.
Massive. Okay, let's unpack this.
Mm-hmm.
Because the details of how this actually happened, how a line of code physically stops a tractor, are just wild. So we are looking at the second week of June 2026, when Mackay Sugar confirmed they were dealing with a severe cybersecurity incident.
And like we said, the physical impact was immediate. Mackay Sugar operates 3 primary mills in that region. This intrusion forced 2 of them, the Farley and Racecourse mills, completely offline.
Wow, 2 out of 3.
Yeah. And we need to be very clear about what offline means in an industrial context here. We aren't talking about their corporate website going down so you can't read an annual report.
Right, it's not a PR problem.
Exactly. We are talking about the complete severing of the industrial control systems, the digital brains that tell the physical motors to spin, the valves to open, and the belts to move. All of it was locked up.
I'm really trying to wrap my head around the scale of that, because they don't just grow all this cane themselves, do they? They're like the processing hub for an entire region.
That's the real kicker. They take raw cane from more than 1,300 independent family farms.
Over 1,300 farms. Wow.
Yeah, that is 1,300 separate agricultural businesses. So when those 2 mills went dark, the central scheduling systems, the harvesting coordination algorithms, the logistics networks for the trains, it was all wiped out in an instant. The growers had absolutely nowhere to deliver their cane.
So the whole region just grinds to a halt. The ripple effect is staggering. It makes me think of a massive regional traffic jam.
Oh, that's a good way to look at it.
Right. Like, imagine you've got this intricate, bustling highway system feeding into a central city, and suddenly the toll booth computers at the very center completely crash. No one can get through. So the traffic backs up for miles and miles.
But instead of cars sitting on the highway.
Exactly. Instead of cars with people inside, just annoyed and listening to the radio, the traffic in this scenario is thousands and thousands of tons of cut sugarcane. And it's just sitting there, trapped in these metal bins, baking in the intense North Queensland sun.
And that analogy hits on the critical vulnerability of this specific industry. The cargo itself is a ticking clock.
Because it goes bad.
Right. Sugarcane is not a stable commodity like, say, coal or iron ore that you can just leave in a pile for a month. The moment a cane stalk is severed from the ground, the sucrose content begins to degrade.
Oh, wow. I didn't realize it happened that fast.
Oh, yeah. If it isn't crushed within a very tight window, usually a matter of hours to a day, it begins to rot and ferment. The crop literally turns to compost.
Which means the timing of this attack. I mean, this couldn't have been a random virus that just happened to wander into their network on a Tuesday, could it?
Not a chance. This incident occurred in the second week of June. For the Australian sugar industry, that is the absolute starting gun of the annual crushing season.
So the attacker was watching the calendar? They deliberately waited for the worst possible moment.
They waited for the moment of maximum leverage. When a threat actor launches an attack targeting physical infrastructure, they are calculating pressure.
Right.
Striking at the exact moment the harvest begins, when the logistical ballet is at its most complex, maximizes the pain. It guarantees that every single hour of downtime isn't just an IT inconvenience, it is agonizingly expensive, irreversible crop loss.
So who actually pulls the strings on an operation like that? Because that takes serious, deliberate planning.
It does.
The intelligence we're looking at points to a group claiming responsibility who call themselves the Gentlemen, which, first of all, is a ridiculously polite name for a crew holding an entire agricultural region hostage.
Right, it's very theatrical. But Microsoft's threat intelligence tracks this specific actor as Storm 2697. What we are dealing with here is a relatively new, but incredibly aggressive ransomware as a service operation, or ROT.
I hear that term, ransomware as a service, and it just sounds so like corporate, like they have a SaaS platform with a monthly subscription and a customer support portal.
Well, in many ways, the infrastructure mirrors exactly that. The ROS model is essentially a dark web franchise.
The franchise.
Yeah. The core developers of the Gentlemen, they don't actually do the hacking themselves. They sit back and build the sophisticated malicious software, the encryption tools, and the secure payment portals on the dark web.
Okay.
Then they lease this entire toolkit out to independent contractors known as affiliates.
So the affiliates are the ones actually kicking down the digital doors.
Yes. The affiliates do the infiltrating, the lateral movement through the network, and the actual deployment of the ransomware. And when a victim pays up, the core developers and the affiliates split the profits automatically.
Wow. It's the complete industrialization of cybercrime.
Exactly. It lowers the barrier to entry so much. An attacker doesn't need to be a genius coder anymore. They just need to be good at tricking an employee into clicking a bad link, and they can rent the rest of the weapon.
And looking at their track record from our source material, they are terrifyingly good at it. By mid-June of 2026, the Gentlemen already had over 480 alleged victims listed on their dark web extortion site.
That is a massive volume.
Right. That made them one of the biggest, most active crews of that entire year, second only to another group called Quailan. They were operating at a frankly insane tempo. But here's where it gets really interesting for me.
Okay.
I'm trying to square this Mackay Sugar incident with everything we usually assume about hackers. We always picture hackers desperately downloading sensitive files to blackmail a company, right? The guy in the hoodie stealing secret blueprints or patient records or credit cards.
Right, the classic data breach.
But the threat intelligence explicitly notes that on June 15th, when Mackay Sugar was added to the Gentleman's leak site, no data was actually published. And Mackay Sugar didn't confirm that any sensitive data was even stolen.
Yeah, that's a crucial detail.
If they didn't take the data, what was the point of the hack? I mean, maybe they didn't need to steal data to get what they wanted.
What's fascinating here is how the real leverage wasn't stolen secrets. For the last decade, the primary leverage in a ransomware attack was indeed data theft or encryption. The threat was, pay us, or we release your embarrassing executive emails, or we leave your customer database permanently locked.
Right. Pay up or you're ruined digitally.
But the headline impact at Mackay Sugar represents a deliberate shift. It wasn't about stealing secrets at all. It was entirely operational.
They weren't holding information hostage. They were holding time hostage.
That is the absolute core of it. When an attacker can paralyze the physical machinery that generates a company's revenue and the revenue of the 1,300 family farms depending on them, they don't need to steal a single kilobyte of data.
Because the damage is happening in real time.
Exactly. The leverage isn't a threat of future embarrassment. The leverage is the sheer ticking clock of the ruined harvest. The leverage is thousands of tons of cane actively rotting in the sun while the executives scramble to figure out what to do.
Man, that pivot from threatening someone's digital privacy to threatening their physical product brings us to a really crucial technical concept that the Kinsoft source dives into. We are no longer just talking about an IT problem. This is an OT problem.
Yes, operational technology risk.
I want to break this down for the listener because, we throw the acronym IT around all day. Information technology, we all know what that is. That's the office network, the payroll software, the email servers, the Wi-Fi in the break room.
Right.
But OT operational technology is a completely different beast.
It is. Think of it this way. IT manages data. OT manages physics.
I love that. OT manages physics.
It really does. Operational technology encompasses the specific hardware and software that detects or causes a change through the direct monitoring and control of physical devices. We are talking about programmable logic controllers, or PLCs, and SCADA systems.
So the actual brains of the factory.
Exactly. These are the highly specialized, often older computer systems that open a physical steam valve, speed up a massive conveyor belt, or monitor the internal temperature of a 3-story crushing machine.
So traditionally, those two worlds were completely separate, right? Yeah, the carpets and the concrete, the office workers on the IT network, and the factory floor running on its own closed loop of OT.
Historically, yes, they were air-gapped, completely disconnected. But over the last 20 years, businesses wanted the efficiency of connecting them.
Sure, for convenience.
Right. They wanted the office scheduling software to talk directly to the plant floor machinery, so everything would run just in time. They wanted engineers to be able to monitor the temperature of a boiler from a laptop at home instead of standing next to it.
Yeah.
So we connected the carpets to the concrete. We built a digital bridge between IT and OT.
And I'm guessing that bridge is exactly how the gentlemen got their hands on the tractors and the mills.
It is the fatal flaw in modern industrial design if it's not secured properly. If an attacker can compromise the front office IT network, maybe through a seemingly harmless phishing email opened by someone in HR, they establish a foothold.
And then they just cross the bridge.
Exactly. From there, they move laterally across the network, escalating their privileges, hunting for that connection to the OT network. Once they find it, they cross it. Suddenly, a stolen email password leads directly to industrial PLCs receiving malicious code that tells them to shut down the safety interlocks and freeze the machinery.
And going back to the pressure cooker of agriculture we talked about, the leverage of spoilage. If you are a ransomware affiliate and you want the absolute fastest payday possible, you target OT.
Because it results in the fastest payday, without question.
Right. The pressure on the victim to pay the ransom and restore those systems is quite literally visible. The corporate board isn't sitting around worrying about a potential fine from a privacy regulator 3 years from now. They're looking out the window, watching their physical product turn to mush.
The urgency is entirely physicalized. You cannot stall for time when the crop is rotting.
Which makes reading about Mackay Sugar's immediate response so intense. According to the source, over the weekend following the attack, they didn't just give up. They actually made significant recovery progress.
But we have to look at what that progress actually entailed.
Right. They managed to restart limited, completely manual crushing just to process the cane that was already cut, bleeding sucrose and sitting in the fields.
This raises an important question. I really want the listener to think about the sheer logistical nightmare of what the floor managers at Mackay Sugar had to execute that weekend.
It sounds chaotic.
It's beyond chaotic. They took a massive, highly automated 2026 logistics operation, and they were forced to revert it back to analog manual labor just to survive the weekend.
I can't even fathom it. I mean, operating massive, dangerous industrial machinery without the digital safety interlocks functioning, without the automated scheduling telling you which train is arriving when.
They were likely doing it all by hand.
Yeah, coordinating over static-filled two-way radios, writing weights down on clipboards, shouting across the floor. The stress and, frankly, the physical danger to the workers on that floor must have been unimaginable.
It is the ultimate fallback position, but it is incredibly fraught with inefficiency and physical risk. When the digital brain of your facility is locked by a cryptographic key held by criminals in another country, human muscle and manual overrides are the absolute only things you have left.
Wow. So what does this all mean for us? We've looked at the disaster, the ROS franchise model, the vulnerability of the IT and OT bridge. But the Kinsoft report doesn't just leave us with a horror story.
No, it provides a very clear playbook.
Right. It outlines a very specific, hard-won defense playbook. And honestly, even if you, the listener, don't run a massive sugar mill, if your business has operations beyond just people typing in cubicles, if your company makes things, moves things, or stores things, you really need to pay attention to these recommendations.
The source breaks down 4 highly actionable pillars of defense. The first one sounds simple, but it is foundational. You must proactively identify your trading stoppers.
Trading stoppers. I really like that phrase.
It forces a brutal, realistic prioritization. Most companies think all their servers are important. But you have to know exactly which specific systems, if they went dark right this second, would completely stop you from trading.
Right, not the systems that would just annoy your staff, but the ones that physically halt the movement of your business.
Exactly. You must identify those crown jewels, isolate them, and pour your protective resources into them first.
It's about knowing where your actual heart is, as opposed to just protecting your fingertips. Okay, so the second pillar they highlight is having immutable backups. Now, everyone knows you're supposed to back up your computer, but immutable is the critical word here. How does that actually work mechanically?
Well, a standard backup can be deleted or overwritten. If ransomware gets onto your network, it will actively seek out your standard backups and encrypt those too.
So you can't restore from them.
Right. An immutable backup, however, uses a technology called write once, read many. Once the data is written to that storage, it is cryptographically time-locked.
Time locked, meaning no one can touch it.
No one. It cannot be altered, deleted, or encrypted by anyone, not even by your own chief network administrator, until a predetermined time period has passed.
Oh, wow. It's exactly like putting your most critical system blueprints into a timed bank vault.
That's a perfect way to describe it.
Right. Like even if someone breaks into the bank, holds a gun to the manager's head, and demands the keys, or in this digital scenario, a hacker steals the highest level passwords, the vault simply cannot be opened or changed by anyone until the timer hits 0.
And that removes the attacker's ultimate leverage. If a gang encrypts your active network, but you have tested immutable backups of your core operating systems, you are not forced into a corner to pay the ransom. You can wipe the infected hardware clean, pull your systems out of the secure vault, and rebuild.
Okay, that makes total sense. Now, the third pillar in this playbook is network segmentation. We touched on this a bit earlier when we talked about that bridge between the IT network and the OT network.
Yes, segmentation is about building robust digital walls. The architectural principle here is that an intrusion starting in the front office should never have a clear path to reach the plant floor machinery.
So you break the bridge.
Exactly. You use firewalls, demilitarized zones, and sometimes physical air gaps. So if someone in accounting clicks a malicious link, the accounting servers might get infected and go down, but the physical manufacturing on the OT side continues uninterrupted because the malware just hits a dead end.
It makes me think of the bulkheads on a submarine.
Oh.
You know, if one compartment hits a rock and starts flooding, you slam those heavy steel doors shut, sealing off that section. You lose that compartment, sure, but the whole ship doesn't sink to the bottom of the ocean.
That is a perfect visualization of network segmentation. And that brings us to the final pillar from our source, which is perhaps the most sobering reality check of all. It's a concept they call the fortnight rule.
The fortnight rule.
Yeah.
So planning for 2 full weeks.
The guidance advises that every modern organization must have a business continuity plan that assumes your core systems, your trading stoppers, could be completely, irrevocably unavailable for a full fortnight.
14 days.
Not a brief outage for a few hours. Not a long weekend while IT restores a server. 14 continuous days of digital darkness. Because for Mackay Sugar and for their 1,300 growers, that agonizing nightmare was reality.
I really want you to think about that for a second. Mentally identify what your own plant floor is. What is the critical engine of your work that absolutely cannot afford a 2-week blackout? The actual mechanism that delivers your service or moves your product.
And now imagine someone pulls the plug on it.
Could you survive 2 entire weeks of doing it entirely manually? Running your logistics on whiteboards, coordinating your teams over radios, while your engineers try to rebuild your entire digital infrastructure from bare metal?
If we connect this to the bigger picture, the incident at Mackay Sugar demonstrates that cybersecurity has fundamentally mutated. It is no longer just a specialized, niche IT problem relegated to the basement server room.
It's a survival issue.
It is a core business continuity issue. And in many industries involving heavy machinery, it is an urgent physical safety issue.
The Kinsoft report wraps up with a very direct call to action. They recommend visiting www.kinsoft.com.au to talk through your specific security needs.
Yeah.
And they state that if a cyber incident could halt your physical operations, not just embarrass you, but physically freeze you in place, then that is exactly the conversation you need to be prioritizing right now. They sign off with a perfect, punchy warning: stay patched, stay skeptical.
It's great advice for the modern industrial age.
So let's briefly recap this journey we've been on today. We started with a sophisticated ransomware as a service group, the Gentleman, operating from the dark web.
Right, Storm 2697.
Yes. We saw exactly how they bypassed traditional data theft, opting instead to hold time and physical spoilage hostage by attacking the intersection of IT and operational technology at Mackay Sugar. We unpack the absolute chaos of reverting a 2026 automated facility to manual control over a weekend,
And we walk through those 4 crucial defenses.
identifying your trading stoppers, locking data in immutable backups, segmenting networks like submarine bulkheads, and preparing for the 2-week blackout of the fortnight rule.
It really provides a comprehensive and very necessary look at the modern threat landscape. But before we finish, there is a forward-looking implication here that builds directly on this theme of operational technology risk, and it is something we all need to deeply consider.
Oh, absolutely. What are you thinking?
Well, if ransomware groups like Storm 26927 have realized that holding time-sensitive physical infrastructure hostage is vastly more lucrative and applies far more pressure than simply stealing credit card numbers, what happens when they inevitably turn their full attention to even more critical, life-sustaining physical systems?
Oh, wow.
Right. Mackay Sugar was devastating for a regional agricultural economy. But imagine the implications if the targeted OT isn't a sugar mill. Imagine it is a municipal water treatment plant controlling the chemical balance of drinking water for 1 million people.
That is terrifying.
Or the automated switching systems for an urban emergency 911 dispatch grid. Or the climate control and backup generator systems in a massive regional hospital.
Yeah.
In those scenarios, a fortnight of downtime isn't just about lost crops, rotting logistics, and missing regional income. It becomes an immediate matter of public survival. The convergence of IT and OT means that our physical safety is now entirely tethered to our digital security.
It brings us right back to that opening image we talked about. It isn't just about the quiet server blinking in the dark anymore. It's about the tractor stopping in the field, the heavy machinery going violently silent, the physical world being held hostage by a digital padlock. It's a stark reminder that the digital and physical worlds are no longer separate. They are one and the same. Thank you so much for joining us on this deep dive. I highly encourage you to go look at your own systems, whatever a plant floor might be, with a new critical eye. Stay patched, stay skeptical,